in when he's done nothing but violate our values? What about the value of the sanctity of marriage and the values of our Judeo-Christian ethic, or more importantly, the values even of our Constitution that he tramples on a daily basis? You know, talk about value zero.
Yeah, value zero. That's the next chapter of my next book, which I'm sending to you, by the way. Let me just see if I talk about values for 1 minute. If I wrote something. I have zero leadership. A bird needs two wings, the chicken and the egg. The progressive Islamist takeover, vain and aspiring men and women. Nationalism versus National Socialism. Nope, not in there. Well, here's one for you. Zero strategy against ISIS. A Hobson's choice. Let me see what I said about that and see if I agree with myself or disagree. Maybe I'll argue with myself on air. Oh, my God. What should the United States do, I ask? We understand that you can't kill everyone on Earth in order to get at the bad guys. However, there will come a time when a decision is going to have to be made that is a Hobson's choice, wrote Savage. I'll remind you of what Harry Truman had to decide in World War II. The American people were exhausted with war. They had defeated Germany, but the war in the Pacific raged on. The American military estimated it would cost the deaths of 1 million American men to conquer the Japanese mainland. The Japanese would not surrender, even though their Air Force and Navy had been decimated. In fact, they issued bamboo knives and told every resident, even old women, who were taught to make knives out of sticks, that when the Americans came to Japan, they would have a duty to kill them. So Truman knew the enormous cost of a land invasion. What did he decide? Better them than us. He knew that if he dropped experimental weapons on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of innocent Japanese men, women, and children would die. He knew it was a horrible and tragic choice, but better them than us. That was what Truman decided. Now, here we are in a world where there is a moral equivalency, not only in the universities, but in the academic running America. A man who spends all of his viciousness attacking Republicans and the American people themselves rather than ISIS. What would you do? The more I think about burning a man alive, the sicker I get. I ask myself who was worse, Hitler or the Islamo-fascists. Even Hitler would not publicize what he was doing to people in the concentration camps. He hid it. So why are these monsters publishing it on the internet? They are publicizing their atrocities in order to induce terror in the world's population. They are doing what their antecedents did in the 7th century when Islam first broke out of Mecca and conquered a good portion of the Middle East. They did it through burning, killing, raping, and even burning libraries. That's how they did it then. The good old-fashioned way the Mongols did it. We have the weapons to stop them, but not the leadership. We have young men in F-18s who could take them off the map in 72 hours. But we have a woman running the Air Force who has never flown a Piper Cub and who answers directly to the sorority running America. The more I think about not only burning a man alive in a cage for all the world to see, but the world doing little about it, the more disgusted I get. People today are so apathetic. They'd rather watch a laugh-a-thon on television or the perversion in the movies than say enough is enough. Do something to stop them before they kill all of us. The people don't demand it, so the government does nothing. Instead, it attacks the Tea Party. Pages 59 and 60 of the most important book of our time, Government Zero. Back in a minute.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE, 855-400-7282. Savage.
Your Savage Nation is sponsored by SwissAmerica.com. It's the only company I trust for tangible assets, gold and silver. Call 800-BUICO. So Dianne Feinstein comes up from her shopping cart deals, top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee. That's a good place to be if you want to figure out what business moves to make next. You see, you have all the intelligence in advance. And she's criticizing Obama. Senator Dianne Shopping Cart Feinstein said, I read the intelligence faithfully. ISIL is not contained. ISIL is expanding, she said to the double-mouthed Andrea Mitchell on Monday. Really, Dianne, you can figure that out for yourself in the midst of all your snorting of the business deals? All of the snorting of the business deals. You have time to do intelligence work for national security? I'm shocked. I really am shocked. Now, you have any wonder why ISIL or ISIS or Schmisis or ISIS is able to get away with this? Take a look at who's running our country. Take a look at who's running our Senate Intelligence Committee. Take a look at who's running every intelligence agency in America, and you'll understand how naked we are, and how exposed we are to these animals. And Obama's being criticized by Democrats, if you think I'm alone on this. Influential who? Who is this? Liberal columnist? Oh, what's the difference? They're all making believe they're mad at him for what he said in Turkey. They said that he wasn't strong enough and he should be tougher. Yeah, right. Those comments echoed Washington Post columnist Eugene Robinson's assessment that Obama's tone was all wrong in addressing the Paris attacks. Thank you, Eugene. You're a genius. Typically an Obama ally, Robinson, in the column published on Tuesday, wrote that at times he was patronizing. At other times he seemed annoyed and almost dismissive. Welcome, Eugene. You've awakened from your slumber. Rip Van Robinson. Rip Van Eugene Robinson of the Washington Post finally awakened to who Obama really is. Yeah, okay. And another one. That's not the tone you want to strike to the public. That's not the tone you want to send to our allies and enemies, said Democratic strategist, whoever he is, Brad Bannon. Never heard of him. Well, they're awakening slowly from their sleep. One day they'll finally see what's behind the mask. Here's a little news. Let's see if it's good news or bad news. Is this good news? Baltimore rioter sentenced in CVS arson. The man accused of setting fire to a CVS pharmacy in Baltimore during the riots was sentenced to 4 years in prison in order to pay $500,000 in restitution. Raymond Carter, 24, who previously pleaded guilty to rioting, also faces 3 years of supervised blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Carter was identified by citizens after authorities released photographs from surveillance video and announced a $10,000 reward for info leading to his identification. He was arrested after a foot chase. What's a foot chase? You chase his feet only? And later reached a plea agreement. Now, where's this street thug going to get $500,000 from? I don't know. The whole world's crazy. And now he's bringing in refugees from Syria. KSEV, Texas. Charlie, you're on the Savage Nation. What's on your mind, Charlie?
Well, I recently purchased your book. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm either chapter 9 or 10. And one of the quotes I really enjoyed in there was from retired U.S. Admiral James Lyons. Until you recognize Islam as a political movement masquerading as a religion, you are never going to come to grips with it. I think that's a great quote and a true quote.
Well, you notice he's a retired admiral.
Yes.
The current admirals can't even sail a 20-foot sailboat. If they step out of line with Obama, as you well know, they are decommissioned immediately.
Sure. A lot of our great warriors have been decommissioned from both the Navy, the Air Force, the Army, the Marine Corps.
I am shocked that anyone can still fly a plane or steer a ship under this Potemkin Navy that he's created.
Probably can't.
Well, they're sailing an entire battle group into the Middle East there and taking an aircraft carrier over there. I wonder who's going to pilot it. I mean, you have to have diversity, don't you? And even if the person can't steer the ship, that person should be on the bridge, don't you think?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, even if the person is not qualified to steer the ship, you have to make sure that they do steer the ship and then blame someone for the fact that they can't. That's the important thing, is diversity, not the ability to pound the enemy into eternity. Look, Charlie, we know what's going on, and all we can do is bellyache about it because we have no opposition party. Where is the vociferous response to what Obama is doing or has done or has not done from anyone on the Republican side? I mean, you hear an occasional bleat here, an occasional bleat there, but don't you? Where is the real reaction to this man's nut? The man is a nut.
Well, he's probably a whole lot more than that, too.
Well, now you're giving me some leading lines here, but you know I'm not going to go back down that one because I've covered it for days now. There's only one conclusion you can reach. Well, three. The reason okay, let's take a news story I opened on the show with. Headline: U.S. military airstrikes destroy 116 ISIS fuel trucks You say, oh, great. And then you find out that the truck drivers are warned first with leaflets warning the Muslim drivers to scatter, said an official who had been briefed on the strike. So they warned the ISIS drivers to get out of the trucks before we blew them up? Why would they do that, Charlie?
Because they're probably Muslims themselves.
But who's they? You mean the commander-in-chief? I hear that every action in the military has to go through the central office in the White House. We have read that over and over again. He's not letting the commanders on the ground make any strike decisions. They all come out of the girls in the White House. Did you know that?
That's right.
So why are the girls in the White House telling our enemy that the bombs are coming? Why? Duh.
So the enemy.
Does anyone watch the show Homeland? Could it be that they've been penetrated and they were being run by the enemy itself? The whole world is now asking, why is Obama so impotent with regard to the most terrible enemy since Hitler? And no one could come to the conclusion that's obvious. That's all. What else can you say? At a certain point, there's nothing else to say. Nothing. Nothing that we could say. I try to warn you. I told you that Russia was going to have to do something. I predicted it in the book, and it happened. Now we wake up and say, thank God Russia and France are getting together, but not you-know-who. No, not him. 855-407-282, michaelsavage.com. Lots of callers. Who's really behind ISIS is the question. In many cases, they're using our weapons. When they captured tanks, huge tanks, when they took over parts of Iraq, they were American Abrams tanks. Have we blown up one tank that they took control of? No. Why have we not destroyed one tank that they stole? I don't know. Ask your commander-in-chief. Or ask the commander-in-chief's wife, who you can see dancing the night away the other night in Manhattan. Oh, yeah, Michelle. Doing the samba in Manhattan 2 days after Paris. How classy.
Join the Savage Nation. Call now, 855-400-SAVAGE. Savage.
All right, here's news from the Crescent News Network. Paris attacks cell phone found. Here's the headline from Crescent News Network. The investigators in Paris have recovered a cell phone believed to belong to one of the attackers, a possible big break that could help unravel the plot and the suspected network behind it. So-called counterterrorism and intelligence officials told the Crescent News Network. According to these officials, the phone contained a message sent sometime before the attacks began to the effect of, okay, we're ready. Now, boys and girls, do you believe this? I thought the suicide bombers blew themselves up with vests. How could they have found the phone? Answer, they didn't. They found nothing. It's a false flag. It's a lie. It's all nonsense. What are they going to find? Who's behind it? What do you mean, who's behind it? What do you need to find who's behind it? They told you who's behind it. Idiocy, morons. Morons. Who else would take those jobs? I saw a story last night that I did not put on my website, that I put on my Facebook page, and 92,000 people shared this story. It was on Fox News last night for the world to see, but you had to read the story to see what really went on. Here's the headline on Fox. U.S. military airstrikes destroy 116 ISIS fuel trucks, sharing target info with France. And you say, yay! Frito is going for it. 6 paragraphs down, here is what you read. The official said previously the ISIS fuel trucks were off limits to U.S. military strike aircraft. Interesting. When asked if the Paris attacks would bring about a change in the U.S. military's rules of engagement, the U.S. official said that the truck drivers were warned first before the bombs fell. We dropped leaflets, he said, warning the ISIS drivers to scatter. Next, we strafed the area with 30-millimeter cannons before dropping bombs on the fuel trucks. My headline is simple. Obama's military gave ISIS advance notice of bombing to let them scatter and come back to fight another day. I can ask you a loaded question, but the question has the answer in it. Why would President Hussein Frito Obama first warn ISIS drivers to get out of the trucks and run away before bombing the fuel truck.